Ferdinand Bertin, persistent disturbance, attachment to passions, and the need for re-education of consciousness. The testimony of Spirit Ferdinand Bertin, presented in the second part of Heaven and Hell, reveals a spiritual state marked by continuous disturbance, difficulty in self-control, and prolonged attachment to earthly passions. His account shows that spiritual suffering can remain active when consciousness awakens to reality, but has not yet developed sufficient inner discipline to reorganize itself. Ferdinand Bertin manifests with preserved identity and partial lucidity. He understands that he lives after the death of the body, but remains emotionally agitated, unstable, and trapped by impulses that dominated his physical life. This instability indicates a consciousness not accustomed to deep reflection and self-mastery. In the spiritual realm, where impulses no longer find material discharge, they transform into a direct source of suffering. Modern depth psychology helps to understand this state. Individuals who have lived under strong dominance of impulses, intense emotions, or unregulated habits tend to have difficulty with self-regulation when external stimuli cease. Without developing conscious internal breaks, the mind remains in turmoil. On a spiritual level, this turmoil translates into persistent disturbance. Spiritism clarifies that the suffering of Ferdinand Bertin is not punishment, but rather a result of the persistence of the same mental and emotional patterns cultivated in life. Death does not automatically transform consciousness. What has been repeated, reinforced, and lived without reflection remains active until it is consciously addressed. Modern science reinforces this reading by demonstrating that behavioral patterns are consolidated through repetition. Change requires conscious effort, deliberate practice, and time. The same applies to spiritual awareness. There is no transformation without an inner decision and without inner re-education. Another striking point in the testimony is the resistance to discipline. Ferdinand Bertin shows difficulty in accepting limits, rules, or higher moral guidance. This resistance keeps the consciousness in a state of conflict, as spiritual life requires adaptation to laws based on harmony and self-control. As long as the spirit rejects this adaptation, suffering persists. Spiritism teaches that this state is not definitive, as Ferdinand Bertin understands that true freedom requires self-mastery and that pleasure without balance turns into pain. The path to transformation opens up. The initial disturbance serves as an educational alert, inviting a change in inner posture. This testimony also offers a current and practical lesson. In a culture that often encourages impulsivity, excess, and immediate gratification, Ferdinand Bertin's account shows the spiritual consequences of a life without conscious self-control. Discipline is not repression, but a tool for the liberation of one's own consciousness. Ferdinand Bertin teaches us that spiritual progress requires more than good intentions. It demands continuous inner work. Consciousness needs to learn to govern itself. When this learning is postponed, suffering arises as a silent teacher. Reflecting on this testimony is an invitation to daily vigilance. Developing self-control, emotional balance, and moral reflection is now a profound way of caring for the future of one's own conscience. Freedom that does not learn to organize itself ends up becoming an inner prison. If this account helped you reflect on impulsivity, inner discipline, and spiritual growth, like, share, and leave your comment. Your participation helps this message reach more people.